Hey, good morning, afternoon. Hey, hey, hey. Good morning, afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. This is Jeremiah Gun Show. Jeremiah Gun Show, the Gun Show. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. This program is dedicated to Charlie Kirk. We are broadcasting from behind enemy lines. This is not bombast. It's not exaggeration. It's not hyperbole. It's not any of those things that the liars will tell you. It's dedicated to Charlie Kirk. You know, what do you want? Someone who tells you we're not in a civil war, or someone who warns you that we are? What, you know, 9 o'clock and all's well. Well, what if it isn't all well? It falls to people who are willing to tell the truth. And we're broadcasting behind enemy lines. We're in the Confederate States of America, the Democrat States of America, the blue no matter who, the ones that don't love the Constitution. And that's just a reality. Know your enemy. Know your enemy. Otherwise, nothing's going to get fixed. This is loneliness, Ted. Loneliness, Ted. That's the bottom line. Part 4. And I spell that Fore. That's not to be cute, as I spell 3 Free, not because I have little grandkid toddlers, but because we are only part free. Part 2 is TWO or TOO, because of hashtag me too, and 2, we're in 2. We're not one. We're not one anymore. Whether that's in your marriage or in your country or your community, we're not one. And so the people that are running around screaming about he's divisive, are the most divisive people you will ever meet. Have the unfortune to have them cross your path. So let's talk about these things a little bit. This is Jeremiah Gun Show, and we're talking about loneliness, Ted. TED being TED Talk. This is a part 4, Fore, like in golf. What does fore mean in golf? Fore. Well, I spell it that way because it means look out, heads up, like I said in baseball. That always seemed kind of dumb to me. Guy pops a pop up and it comes into the crowd or into the guy on deck and into the dugout and they yell, heads up. Well, it seems like cover your head would be better than look. You want to get hit in the nose, face, heads up, look at it so you can protect yourself better from it. I don't know. I managed Little League a little bit, and some things I just don't totally understand. Okay, so the leadoff question here is kind of who do you trust? Who do you trust? Um, I think that's really important. There was a game show in the early days of television called Who Do You Trust? And the host was Johnny Carson, the second host. That kind of put him on the map. Johnny Carson is the one who blazed a trail in late night TV shows, variety shows, talk shows, whatever you want to call it, based around comedy, of course. And then it follows in this trail of a bunch of people who are not qualified, not comedians. And then there's this controversy. I just saw Kimmy Kimmel talking to Michelle Obama on her podcast. It was a little clip from another show, and they were talking about, well, I don't have to be a comedian. Who said I have to be a comedian? Kimmy Kimmel tells her. My boss tells me what to say. Well, his boss is his wife. She's a absolute sick person with TDS. She can't go. She has to go to a therapist because she doesn't understand why she hates her family so much. She hates her family because she hates Trump instead of the other way around. Whatever that means. But you see where I'm going? So he says, I don't have to be a comedian. Well, wait a minute. That whole thing about the Second Amendment, and can a comedian even criticize the president? And then, where does Johnny Carson come in? Because he compared himself to Johnny Carson. Because there's a famous clip of Johnny Carson talking to Mike Wallace about, I'm not going to get political. Why am I going to cut off half of my audience? Greg Gutfeld, I'll give you an example. He's very funny. He's extremely witty and very funny. But the point is, what what Kimmy Kimmel was telling Michelle Obama about how I don't come to your work and tell you how to do your job. Well, excuse me, I thought your job was being a comedian. That's what they said when they defended you, when you got given a day off, disciplinary, and you came right back with more venom, more vengeance, and just sort of silliness. So Johnny Carson. So the question is, who can you trust? I saw a clip. I didn't click on it, but it was on YouTube. It was Russell Brand talking to Tucker Carlson and talking about how he's he's going to run for mayor or something like that, and Trump's fall and all this stuff. Well, I read his book, Mentoring, how to find one, how to be one. Yeah, and he's a smart guy, but I mean, who says that he has the answers? Who says that Tucker has the answers? Who do you trust? I mean, a lot of people trusted Tucker Carlson, and then all of a sudden, he comes up just like Candace Owens and other people just come out of the left field. Rogan, I saw Rogan standing behind the president. I could almost not see him. I didn't realize how little a man he is. There's a saying, this small dogs bark the most. He's standing behind Trump, and I guess it was recent, but Dr. Oz was there, and of course Robert Kennedy Jr., and he's just commending Trump. As usual, the headline, the subtitle, the thing introducing it, the banner says that he apologized to Trump. I never heard an apology. I watched it a couple different versions, a couple different times, but he certainly laughed at Trump. He thinks Trump's very funny because he is. He's very self-effacing. He's very humble. If you don't get that, yeah, he's braggadocious and bombast, but he's also very humble. And look at what he does, not what he says. That's what the greatest teacher who ever lived said. Look at what he does, not what he says. And conversely, you apply that to Tucker, Rogan. So Rogan is there because he suggested this psychedelic drug to help veterans with PTSD and so on. And Trump says, let's do it. Talks to Bobby. Robert Kennedy Jr. talks to Oz. And it's almost like he didn't put those guys in that position or something. I mean, do people ever stop and think? So Rogan, he's back there and he's talking about how he just sent Trump. Well, he's been a knife in Trump's back for quite a while. Over what? That's another show we'll talk about. Over what? But I mean, so the question is, who do you trust? Like the name of that game show. Who do you trust? What is Russell Brand going to say next month? Well, I don't know. An indication is not what he said last month. Same with Rogan. Same with Tucker Carlson. Same with Candace Owens, Dave Smith, whoever you want. I've seen Megyn Kelly's name thrown in that batch. And Victor Davis Hanson, who I think you can trust, explains why those guys went wrong. Ben Shapiro, who I think you can generally trust, explains how those guys go wrong. So you can't just follow one person and say that's the way it is. So we're talking about loneliness, Ted, and this is part 4, and I'm just going to play a couple of clips and a couple of quotes because the most important thing about loneliness is it's like a coin that has two sides, right? Love and gratitude is one example. The more love you have, the more gratitude you have. The more gratitude you'll have, the more love you'll have for people. And I remember when I got married, I just had this sudden sort of appreciation or love or gratitude for my parents. And it wasn't until I was in that situation, but I really tried to just really do like most believers should do with their pastors. They should, if they're good pastors and not what they call hirelings or false shepherds. And there was a song by Crosby, Stills and Nash just about your parents. Don't ever ask them why. Just look at them and sigh and know they love you. So kind of like Jesus told the people, the Jews. He told the church, the congregation, he told them, do what the Pharisees say, because the priests, they sit in Moses' seat, so they have an authority. But don't do what they do, because they don't do what they're supposed to do. They do the opposite. So let's just begin with a couple of quotes. So just as love and gratitude are two sides of the same coin, inversely proportional and directly proportional and so forth for you engineering heads. But same thing with loneliness and solitude. There's a place for both. So I'm going to play a couple of things, not to be depressing, not to add to depression, which is caused by loneliness frequently, but just to kind of illustrate a point. Let's see if this will work here. Let's clip. This is from a great movie, kind of a real watershed, iconic movie. It got this guy the Academy Award. But it's a small, sweet movie that you probably ought to watch. It's pretty good.
You go to the Stardust Ballroom.
Who told you about the Stardust Ballroom, huh?
Tony. He says very nice place.
Thomas. It's just a big dance hall, that's all it is. I've been there 100 times.
I don't want you hang around the house tonight. I want you to go take a shave and go dance.
Ma, when are you going to give up? You got a bachelor on your hands. I ain't never going to get married.
You're going to get married.
Ma, sooner or later, there comes a point in a man's life when he's got to face some facts. And one fact I got to face is that whatever it is that women like, I ain't got it. I chased after enough girls in my life. I went to enough dances. I got hurt enough. I don't want to get hurt no more. I just called up a girl this afternoon. I got a real brush on, boy. I figured I was past the point of being hurt, but that hurt. Some stupid woman who I didn't even want to call up. She gave me the brush. No, Ma, I don't want to go to Stardust Ballroom, because all that ever happened to me there was girls made me feel like I was a bug. I got feelings, I had enough pain. No thanks, Ma. No. I'm going to stay home tonight and watch the hit parade.
You're going to die without a son.
So I'll die without a son.
Marty, put on the blue suit.
Blue suit, gray suit. I'm just a fat little man, a fat, ugly man.
You're not ugly.
I'm ugly. Ma, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? I'm miserable enough as it is. All right, so I'll go to the Stardust Ballroom. I'll put it in. I'll go. And you know what I'm going to get for my trouble? Fake.
I kind of like the way she said, you're not ugly. When he said, I'm fat and I'm ugly. I used to coach basketball, high school level and youth sports. And we used to have a joke that we would say to each other as coaches. We'd say, he's short, but he's slow. In basketball, we had a saying, just like volleyball now, you can't teach height. That's something that it's good to get out of the chute. So, but anyway, we used to say he's short, but he's slow. Well, I used to play basketball at lunch with all these engineers, and one of them was a very smart guy. We were talking in the hallway, and someone said, "Oh, this guy plays basketball with you guys?" And he said, "Yeah, he's deceptively slow." I thought that was very funny, very clever. Anyway, guys, like I said, they cut each other down to show their love. To the opposite of women, just the opposite. They just cut each other down and show their hate, but they don't do it up front. They're very deceptive. Anyway, here's another one. Let's see if this will work. This famous movie.
Stores everywhere. There's no escape. God's a lonely man. Loneliness has followed me my whole life.
So that was a very famous picture called Taxi Driver. It had some famous actors. One was a child who went crazy, went off the deep end, and the lead, Robert De Niro, who went crazy, went off the deep end. I mean, he played a guy who's a soul warrior for righteousness, and now look at him. He played a tough boxer and a good family man and all, and now look at him. He played a guy that was crazy in a movie, a mental illness, and now look at him. Movie called Awakenings with Robin Williams, and now look at him. By the way, Robin Williams had pretty good quotes on loneliness. So let's talk about a couple of things with regard to famous quotes of loneliness. And where is that? Let's see here. Let's find it up. Let's pull it up. This idea of being alone versus being with people. So it's not, remember, it's not the absence of people that makes you feel lonely. It's you may be in a bunch of people, but they're not the right people. So George Washington, who wrote, he wrote 110 rules of civility and decent behavior. What made him think he could do that? He wrote it when he was 14. He wrote 110 rules of civility and decent behavior. It's pretty good. You should read it. Again, who do you trust? I think he proved that he was trustworthy. But one of them, number 56, was associate yourself with men of good quality if you esteem your own reputation. For it is better to be alone than in bad company. Associate yourself with men of good quality if you esteem your own reputation. It's better to be alone than in bad company. Here's another one here. Let's see. This is on inner strength. It's by Nietzsche, actually, who really, surprisingly enough, I mean, I don't know if you can blame him for becoming the sort of patron saint of Nazism. They adopted him as their philosopher, but he's got a lot of great things to say. He really did. He said, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. That's what we have today is tribalism. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. To thine own self be true, said Shakespeare, right? On the beauty of solitude, here's another brilliant philosopher, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. He's the one who said that there's nothing as terrible as frightening as ignorance in action. I think about progressive and I think about movement. Well, he said, the soul that sees beauty may sometimes walk alone. On the pain of being alone, Thomas Wolfe said, loneliness is and always has been the central and inevitable experience of every man. A great writer named A.W. Tozer, a great teacher, pastor, he's written incredible books, a whole series of them from lectures that he gave. He was kind of like a more hardcore C.S. Lewis. Anyway, he said he wrote an essay called "The Saint Must Walk Alone." You gotta be alone, like they said in "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" Nobody else, no sir, can go there with you. The blind Alabama men or whatever they were called. You got to go there by yourself. Yes, sir. Anyway, loneliness is and always has been the central and inevitable experience of every man. On misplaced company, this is what Robin Williams said. I used to think the worst thing in life was to end up all alone. It's not. The worst thing in life is ending up with people who make you feel like you're all alone. So I think that's all the quotes I wanted to read today about loneliness, but I wanted to make sure we got them in. So you kind of see there's a sort of a compass. One of the things that we need in life is a compass. We need a compass, a rudder. If we're going to sail through life, we need a sail, a compass, a rudder. Those are the three things you got to have. Otherwise, you're not going to make it. You also need an anchor because you don't want to drift. That's not going to help when you wake up in the morning or whatever and you're going to start sailing again. You can't have drifted somewhere to where you don't even know where you are. The compass won't even help then. I know now we have GPS and all that stuff, but you get the point. So we left off on talked about friends and peer pressure. And I said that we homeschooled our kids before we found a really good, we thought was a very, very good charter school, so we could kind of put them into that. But the biggest thing we ever faced was peer pressure, because you don't want other people's kids raising your kids. You don't know, and they don't know how to handle it. If they're with you, I mean, if they're with their friends all day and then with you for a couple of hours while you supervise their homework that they shouldn't have, but anyway, or they're watching a show, or they're worse now, they're on social media. You mean you don't even have any interaction with them, let alone influence. A couple of eye problems. So, like the headmaster of our homeschool group said, kids would rather be wrong than different. They just can't take it. And so, someone told me long, long ago, you don't have to change the word friends very much to come up with fiends. All you have to do is take out the R. So the question is whether your kids' friends are friends or fiends. And in this country, we were based on e pluribus unum. It's part of the American Trinity. In God we trust, liberty, and e pluribus unum. That's it. Those are the founding principles. That's the triangle, the triangulation to sail by. That's the, when Madison built the Constitution, he called it he thought about a triangle. That's why he set up 3 branches. It's a strong, strong shape, and it's a check on each other. So anyway, so my son, he goes to school with these friends, and this has to do with social media, and they live another part of the county where the school was, and we drove him to the school because we liked it so much. And but all of his friends lived right in that area, but they would come out more west and be right in his town, right in his backyard, and they wouldn't even tell him. And then they'd post on social media, here we are at this store, here we are at this mall, whatever it is, and man, we had a good time. And he's just like, what are you guys trying to do? I wouldn't even know that you went there without me unless you posted it. You just rubbing salt in the wound. My daughter had a friend they stayed in touch, good friend in high school, her best friend. And she kind of summed up Facebook, I think it was, social media. She said it's like that quote from T.S. Eliot, who said, with TV, it's now possible for 1 million people who used to go to a theater and at least sit next to somebody, or a theater, and now TV or on the radio, they're able to hear, with social media, they're able to hear the same joke at the same time and still remain lonely. So she said, the only purpose that Facebook has, social media, and we talked about that movie called The Anxious Generation, and also the Coddling of the American Mind. This social scientist has pretty clearly laid out how devastating this stuff is, especially to women, but men suffer by extension because the women in their lives are messed up, or the women that could be in their lives. Anyway, she said, all you do on Facebook is see how much fun your friends are having without you. That's about it. So, excuse me a second. So yeah, that's kind of a problem with social media. Well, it's kind of a different kind of peer pressure when they underscore your loneliness when they don't really have to. I mean, it's enabled people to be able to show cattiness, meanness. What's that called? Clique. Some people say clique. Some people say clique. Tribalism. You're in our tribe or you're not in our tribe. I was walking by the Greenbelt swimming pool clubhouse, whatever, or HOA. This was when Trump was first running, and a bunch of little girls, they were talking. They weren't anywhere near old enough to vote. I would guess they were 12 or 13. Trump is crazy. Trump is crazy. Trump is crazy. And I'm thinking, David Mamet did a great job of talking about this on a show called Uncommon Knowledge, hosted by Peter Robinson out of the Hoover Institute. great. If you get a chance to listen to any of that, it's just great. But anyway, David Mamet, he's the one who wrote the screenplay for Glengarry Glen Ross and things like that. And he's written this book about what happened to our generation, his generation. And he says, he said he was talking about using John Voight in a movie. And this woman says, "Oh, John Voight's crazy." She hasn't gotten any older than 12 or 13. I imagine she was probably 50 or 60. "Oh, John Voight's crazy." And he said, "Well, I happen to know him. I like him. He's a good man. I don't think he's crazy." She wasn't expressing a thought to me that he's crazy. She was wanting to see, am I in her tribe or not? Just like those little girls. If one of the little girls said it could buck the peer pressure, a dead fish floats downstream, but a strong live one swims upstream. Just like those things about solitude versus loneliness. There's a difference. You're not going to fix your loneliness by just swimming, floating downstream with the other deadheads, just because then you'll have belonging. You got to decide which group you want to belong to. So, he kind of, David Mamet, whatever his name is, he pointed out that, hey, this is, she was just trying to do a litmus test to see if I'm in her tribe, the one that's currently popular. Remember, to be popular is easy. To be right when it's not popular is noble. That's been true of every hero, every leader, every philosopher, every priest, every pastor, anybody we've ever had in our life, teacher. They don't have to drink the Kool-Aid. And those of you who might be younger, you don't know what Kool-Aid reference is. I don't even think it was Kool-Aid, but Jim Jones had this tribe that he took to Guyana, which is in South America, from the Bay Area of Frisco. And he called it the People's Temple, and he tried to move them to Russia because he was a communist. They're always communists, these leftist maniacs, collectivists. They always want to tell you how to live, as long as you live their way. So, let's talk about this tribalism. Will you swear the oath? The oath that used to make us be part of e pluribus unum was the Pledge of Allegiance. And what did they do to that? They still say it, I guess, but it's kind of like somebody saying the Lord's Prayer or something when they don't mean it at all. It's not an incantation. It's not magic. It has a purpose. An oath has a purpose. Anyway, let's talk about the cause of these problems. The cause, one of the main causes of loneliness. There's a great quote. I love great quotes. It said the main cause of problems is solutions. We used to talk in high tech, we used to talk about systems that were designed or solutions or services you could buy in high tech and data communications or SATCOM or whatever. And if it was a dumb one that wasn't helping, we would declare that it was a solution in search of a problem. As something that we didn't need or wouldn't help. You have to call it that. So the main cause of problems is solutions. Government tries to do something. I saw a beautiful meme the other day that they cut off your leg. They sell you a wheelchair. They tax your use of the wheelchair. And then they tell you that you couldn't make it without us. They just don't know how to do anything except ask for more money. Never have to explain what they did with the last. So there's a little joke. How many Democrats does it take to solve a problem? And the answer is nobody knows because they never have solved a problem. And you say, well, why you pick on Democrat? Well, it's the government, which is Democrat now. Don't kid yourself. It's a government, education, media attainment complex. And the left, which is now bundled, you get a bundle like you do from your carrier, whether it's cell or cable. You get a bundle. You get communism, socialism, Islamism, governmentism. The DNC a few conventions ago a guy got up and said, government is the only thing we all belong to. It's their family. You know what? This is America, dude. Fool. The government belongs to us. It starts off with we the people. Don't go around selling this FDR crap. We belong to the government. Really? You want to have a revolution? You want to just destroy our revolution without firing a shot? Pretty good doing so far. So let's look at COVID. When it started, and that was a scamdemic, that was launched in the spirit of this guy named Rahm Emanuel, who was Obama's advisor. Comes from Chicago, just like all the rot and cancer does. And he said, never let a problem go to waste. That comes from Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson embraced the World War I because he could tell people how to live, how to dress, how to eat, where to stand, where to this, where to that. He was a racist, a eugenicist, tyrant, a fascist. He wanted to. Oh, there you go again. Yeah, Democrats. It's complicated. It's more complex. You're too simple. It's not any more complex than that. Anyway, so look at COVID. It started off kind of being a unifier. People were like, hey, we're all in the house together. I had my kids, my married kids, because they had just moved down here. We're all in the house. We're all working. And daughter was a teacher. She was teaching out of one room. I was doing my work in the other room because we were told we couldn't go to work by the county and the city and the state and the president, couldn't go to a barbecue, couldn't do it. So we kind of pulled together initially, and then it really started to divide people into the vax and the vax-nots, and started ruining people's lives and careers and education and everything. And it kind of really started to expose what they really wanted out of it. But initially, it did kind of unify us. Hey, we're all in this together. It's like the people that saved up scrap iron or newspapers or rags or rationed their gas and sugar during World War II. It wasn't really, really necessary, but it made people feel like they're part of the effort, part of the team. So it started with we're all in this together. And then it became obvious that, oh, not really. We're just on the plantation. We're just in the POW camp, the re-education camp. They stole your country. They stole your birthright, which is citizenship. Your birthright is citizenship. And they're the highest level that we have that don't understand. We're going to talk about this on another show, but one of the biggest problems is they don't even understand what they're doing. SCOTUS is talking about birthright citizenship. Your birthright is citizenship, and the Democrat government education media attainment complex is taking away your citizenship. If you give it to anybody on earth, then mine doesn't have any meaning. It's just like money. If you print more, mine is worth less. You can't give something to everybody without taking it from somebody. So, they lie about math, if when there was this thing called Enron, where this guy did all of these synthetic leases and these shell corporations, and he created this pyramid Ponzi scheme. And Ken Lay was his name. He eventually went to jail because whistleblowers that they put on the cover of Time or Newsweek called in women. They wanted to highlight that these women were whistleblowers. Well, they didn't do it early enough, but they did it finally. But if I were the lawyer representing all those people, people moved from all over the country to move to Houston to work for Enron. And what they did is they made them buy Enron stock as part of their retirement plan. So when it all crashed, and this guy Ken Lay should be on a chain gang brought around the country with the other ones from Global Crossing and all these others that did all this stuff. They should have been brought Tyco. There was this gang of filthy robber baron devils, and they should have brought them. In the winter they could be a chain gang in Alaska, and in the summer they could be a chain gang in Death Valley or Alabama or anywhere else that's miserable, Minnesota, and move them around the country and have the name of their their name on the back and the name of their company, and let the whole country see that they're paying back their debt to society. But they destroyed people's lives. They moved from all over the country to go there, and then it went belly up. And what did he do? Somebody saw him in Vail, Colorado, at a resort, not long after the big trial, whatever. And he gave all his money to his kids. There's a way that you can do that. Put it whatever that island's called in the Caribbean or whatever. You can just hide the money from the justice. So no justice, no peace. So if I were the lawyer representing those people against him, and why should you even have to argue what these people should get? But I would have said, he stole Ken Lay, the head and the people that were with him, the enablers, the helpers. They stole their past, present, future. You take somebody's life, you take their career, and you just shipwreck them when they're middle-aged and they got debts and children and everything, and you just dump them after having stolen everything. There's a great movie by Dickens. It's called Nicholas Nickleby. Great story. And it opens up, his father dies heartbroken, and he loved his dad. Nicholas Nickleby Jr. loved his father. Dickens always had to give people weird names. But he loved his father, and his father died of a broken heart, basically, because he was ruined by investors, by financial planners. And the way Dickens sums it up so beautifully, he says, 6 brokers took villas in Italy, and 600 nobodies were ruined. It just breaks your heart. So my wife and I took a class on planning for your retirement and financial planning and all that stuff. And the guy's telling a story about a kid, the instructor. He was a financial planner, and he was basically teaching this class at the community college to get customers. But anyway, he told a story about a kid who inherited his dad's 401k, and you can't do that. His dad just gave it to his son, and it was $2 million. And the son took it and gave it to a financial planner who was one of these ones who took a villa in Italy type, turned up, but you don't know till later. And the guy blew half of it. He lost 50% of the $2 million. First of all, so remember, you can't give your 401k directly to your son. But that's what this dad did. He thought he could. And so this financial planner didn't say, hey, you can't do that. And they make them take all these classes and sign all these waivers and what kind of an investor are you and all this stuff. But it doesn't matter. So he went to this financial planner and he said, or he came to them, I guess, ultimately, and said, hey, the last guy lost half. My dad gave me $2 million. He lost it, so now I only have $1 million. And this teacher says, well, you got a bigger problem than that. You got a bigger problem than that. You have to pay 50% on that investment as tax. That's what the government wants. They want to take this dad who built up on already taxed money and spent his whole career trying to build a nest egg to give it to his son. They said, well, we get half of that. And by the way, government says, we don't get half of the 1 million. We get half of the 2 million. So you owe that whole 500K that's left. Of that million that's left, you owe all of it, because they don't care. The government doesn't care that you went to some financial guy and lost it. What does HR block every year? I've got a financial planner in the family, and I asked them about this. What do their commercials say? Come and get your billions, America. And I was relating this to him. I said millions. He said, no, it's billions. So H&R Block says that the IRS, that Joe Biden wanted to hire 87,000 more agents to grind you into powder a little more than he's doing already. It's all they know how to do. Is just suck. The good book says, In the Proverbs, it says, wisdom literature, it says, the leech has 2 daughters. Give, give, they cry. So anyway, so this woman raises her hand and says, the government should do something. They should do something. And the teacher says, well, every single financial planner says we're not tax lawyers. Consult a tax lawyer first. And I raised my hand. I said, ma'am, the government is the one stealing the money. What do you want them to do? When you look to the government, the government should do something. They should do something. They should do something. So this kind of thing won't happen. Well, what did they do to Ken Lay? Did you say nothing? What did they do? Did they make those people whole, as it's called in legal jargon? Did they restore them financially? No. So I said, ma'am, you're looking for the government. You're the government. We the people. When you give the controls to people that have no soul, you're going to get stuff like this. What do you mean the government should do? The government is the one taking every last penny that his dad tried to give him. Do we understand? When I talk about know your enemy, this is it. So what else? Who, how? In real journalism, you say who, what, when, where, why. You're supposed to report that when if you took a class in journalism, that's what you're supposed to report. So who is it? They, them. Feminists of both sides. Gloria Steinem told women. And women's life affects men, whether it's your mother, your sister, your boss, your associate, your coworker, your subordinate, whatever. Your wife, your girlfriend, your shack up, whatever. What women are taught affects men. No? So Gloria Steinem said, a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. And then after she's trashed a whole generation of men and women, she gets married as an old bag. Super sorry. I don't know. I might have been wrong. Gets back to who do you trust. I was walking through work one day. I was a contractor and called on these different companies. And I'm walking past this woman who's sitting. She's a secretary. Now they call them. What do they call them now? Gosh, I can't believe it. Admins. They call them admins. They used to call them secretaries. Even though all the cabinet's named secretary of this, secretary of that. So it's not like it's a demeaning name. Anyway, she's on the phone. And I'm walking by her and she says, no, she's just a housewife. And I thought, wait a minute. What are you? You're just a lady that answers the phone and gets coffee for the guy or woman that's in charge of you. What are you doing? What are you doing dissing people for roles that they choose to play? You don't want that done to you? They didn't just steal your wife, they stole your life. My daughter was in kindergarten, and I guess I'll end with this one here, but my daughter was in kindergarten, and they had a come to work day, spend the day. So we were very involved in our kids' education. Teachers appreciated that, so did the school and PTA and everything. So anyway, I go there and they say, okay, you're going to not just watch, but you're going to help out. So take X kids, 6 kids, take them out to the little picnic benches in the kindergarten area. Take this picture with you. And it was a picture of, this was the exercise we were going to do. So we were going to be a teacher for the day with our little group. They divided the kids up. So I take my 6 or 7 kids out there, including my daughter, and say, here's a picture. And it's a picture of a mom and a dad and a boy and a girl, like you'll never see on TV commercials anymore. And anyway, they're washing a car. And they said, talk about what they're doing in the picture, talk about who they all are, and then have them draw a picture of their family, and then have them explain what their family's like. And I got to tell you, it just about broke my heart, because I said, who's this? That's the daddy. Who's that? That's the mommy. Who's that? That's the sister. That's the brother. And what are they doing? They're washing a car. Okay, so then they spend some time drawing theirs, and then we go around the table, and the first one says, this is my my dad and my sister and my brother. My mommy moved away. My mommy moved away. So I get to the next one. Same story. This is my dad and my two brothers. My mommy moved away. Every single kid except for mine. The mommy moved away. Not the dad. You know, it was always this deadbeat dads and evil, you know, men are pigs and all this stuff. But here was the generation where I was the only one. So there's this great cartoon. It was in Mad Magazine, actually, and it said morality then, and it showed a black sheep in the middle of a bunch of other white sheep that were glaring at it. And then it showed morality today, and it showed a white sheep in the middle, and all the black sheep were. This is not racism. Black sheep meant the bad one in your family. Is that what? So here might, you know, the idea was to try to make the kids feel better about the fact that they don't have the nuclear family, the mother, father, boy, and girl, whatever. That's what it was supposed to be. But the point, the lesson learned is my daughter is now the one that has the traditional family. And I guess, I don't know, maybe it's supposed to make, you start out trying to make somebody feel better. You know, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You're not trying to single out that girl that got pregnant. You're not trying to single out these people that don't have a mom and a dad. And then they tried to celebrate that they have two dads, two moms. Anyway, we'll pick it up next time. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. This is Loneliness, Ted. Part 4, we'll pick it up next time. Thank you for listening. Appreciate you more than you'll ever know. Thank you. Go in peace and love.